Alright, making another video. Deleted the last one because I just don't give a shit about the whole angry vegan cyclist thing. I mean, I got nothing to prove to him, and whatever. But it's kind of the point of this video. Like, if you're going to make the antinatalist argument, understand that people who you're arguing against, most of the time, they're going to come after you. They're not coming after the philosophy itself or the arguments made about antinatalism. They're going to come after you as the person making those arguments. And I'm sure every antinatalist has experienced this. Like, oh, you're depressed. You shouldn't look at life this way. And if you don't like it, kill yourself. That's super common. All that kind of stuff. Like, they're not coming after the philosophy itself. They're going to be after you. Like, they're arguing against the person. They're not arguing against the idea itself. And frankly, they don't have an argument. They're going to try to derail it. And in fact, I don't think I've ever encountered a good argument against antinatalism. And they usually, the ones that will make one, like I saw one, I think, on a Christian site where it's just like, oh, you know, we got to do what God says and all this sort of crap. Like, it was just stupid shit. And it's like, clearly you don't. You clearly don't have to make kids. All that stuff. Like, antinatalism in basic terms, as far as I understand it, and I think about everyone else on the same page, like, I'm not the most eloquent person out there, but really, it's just not making someone else who's going to have to wake up here, have desires that a lot of times aren't going to be fulfilled, do a lot of shit that they hate. They're going to suffer the whole time, and then eventually they're going to die. Like, everything they work for and everything in them is just going to be obliterated at some point. No matter how good or bad or how much of a winner or loser you are. Like, whatever it is, it's gone. It's going to be taken from you. So, it's best not to create somebody else who's invested in this game. Because this game, there's nothing to really invest in, really. Unless, I mean, I guess some people invest in suffering, going against suffering, and that's noble and all. For the creatures that are here. Like, don't make more people to have to, fix, basically. You don't need to make more problems to just fix more problems. I don't know, but yeah, it seems like a lot of the people who argue against antinatalism, yeah, they just argue against the antinatalist. Like, they'll go after you and be like, oh yeah, just kill yourself, you're a loser, blah blah blah, get a hobby, find a girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, and things will be on the up and up. Just magically, when it's clearly not true. Yeah, I mean, if you did all those things, your life would be looking better to a certain extent for a while, but you'll get used to that level of comfort and you're going to want something else again. So, I mean, you could be the biggest loser on planet Earth making these arguments and they'd still be correct. Like, I don't know, like I've said to somebody else before, I'm like, if you went up to Hitler on the street and asked for the time and he told you the correct time, are you going to be pissed and just ignore him? Be like, oh, well, it's Hitler, so he can't be right. Well, sometimes Hitler is right about certain things, okay? When it comes to stuff like that, if he has a correct time, he's right. It doesn't matter who he is. It could be like Ted Bundy telling you the same thing, and it wouldn't be wrong. So these personal attack things are just stupid as fuck. I personally think. I understand why they do it. It's to just derail the argument and try to make themselves look better. It's dog behavior, basically, as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, they'll just do anything they can to kick you in the balls to make themselves look better. And again, that's just another indictment of life because everyone is just frantically competing with each other. Like, everyone you see or ever met, even your friends and family, you're competing against them, whether you know it or not. You just don't compete as hard with, people you get along with. Like, I'm sitting in a chair and I'm in my home right now. Well, no one else is taking it. I'll tell you that fucking much. Friend or foe, like, this is my space. I competed and won the amount of resources it takes to have my plot and get my shit. I had to compete with other people who wanted a place, like the homeless or whatever. Like, everyone's out to get theirs. That's just the deal. And if you're an antinatalist, just be aware that most people are not interested in the philosophy. They're interested in making themselves look better than you. And then just saying, well, whatever you have to say is rubbish because you don't do this right or you're not as good as me in some respect. And it's just stupid. I mean, we're not really rational creatures, I don't think. And I'll admit, me neither. Like, I've got my own hang-ups. I mean, as far as like some things in my life, yeah, I'm doing great. Like I'm doing better than average in some respects, but in other respects, it's like, wow, well, I've really fucked up there. That kind of shit. So I mean, you could pick and pull at any little part of somebody, and you're gonna yeah, you just dig a little bit, you'll find some shit on people, on anybody. And it's a really, I think Schopenhauer mentioned, it's like it's a real easy trick to pull in an argument. It's just to make the attacks personal because it just throws them off, and you kind of just sort of win the argument with quotes. You win because you just beat the person. Like, yeah, you could beat any person at anything, really. You can use that, but as far as that goes, like, yeah, just accept the fact that people aren't interested in the philosophy necessarily, and there's good reason. Like, they're programmed to get anything that goes against life. People are generally programmed, and in fact, everything in you is about continuing your existence. So to go against that is like a big no-no for most people, and most people will never ever take their blinders off to see that. They're just so invested, and life has made it so that we are invested in it. Like even the most hardcore, depressed, anti-natalist, ethicist, like look at Gary. The dude has still yet to shoot himself. I mean, yeah, he says, "Oh, I'm in a fighter for the cause" or whatever. But I mean, yeah, honestly, when it comes to anti-natalism, it's a losing battle. We have better luck of living to see the sun burn out before this philosophy really takes hold in society. I will never see it to where everyone's an anti-natalist. You're better off pushing child free or something, which I might make a video on that at some point. Yeah, I don't know, I don't care. But yeah, it's just one of those things. Like you got to kind of show how big your dick is before you just start, swinging and saying certain things like, oh, I got into it a few times over the past few months, like with a friend of mine. He knows I'm an anti-natalist. Like he's one of the few people who does. I was just kind of having an argument with him. Like I just told him the facts. Like you'll suffer and you'll die. There's no need to create people to experience that who are going to just have a bunch of desires that a lot of times they aren't going to be able to fulfill, or they're going to feel like shit because they can't, and then suffer, and then eventually just die. They're going to lose everything they have. And he's like, well, you're looking too deep into it. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking? Looking too deep? It is in your face. Like, it's so in your face. Like, anti-natalism to me is an incredibly shallow philosophy. And I'm not saying that to be a dick or whatever, or saying it sucks, because it's right. Like, it's so simple to grasp. Anybody can grasp this idea. You don't have basically you just have to know. You don't even have to. You could be like an invalid laying in a bed somewhere, and you can grasp the fact that yeah, I don't need to be having kids to experience this. Like it stands on its own 2 feet. It doesn't need I don't know. Like whenever people tell anti-natalists to kill themselves and shit like that, I just think, if every anti-natalist killed themselves today, you burned every single bit of anti-natalist literature, whether it be Zappos, Schopenhauer, and all that, parts of the Bible, you just eradicated them completely, wiped from the pages of history, like you just managed to do that. Anti-natalism or something like it would be back tomorrow because it's a perception of life. It's not it's not something like religion, like Catholicism or Islam or something, where if you got rid of all the adherents of that, it wouldn't be back anymore. It'd be gone. It's not a religion. It's just the way it is. Like, it's a perception of life. It's a way of seeing the world. And, I've said it before, well, in other places, but, like, yeah, if somebody tells me they're an anti-natalist, like, I get where they're coming from immediately, and they get where I'm coming from. Like, in a lot of ways, anti-natalists are like my true family, like my real brothers and sisters, because we get each other. It's like a perception of realizing, oh, 2 plus 2, that equals 4. You could be speaking Spanish, we'd be holding up our hands like 2, and then another 2, it's like, oh yeah, 4, yeah, right here, yeah, we get it. Like, it's just one of those things that you can just get, you just see it. And, yeah, I don't know how else to say it, but yeah, the philosophy of antinatalism itself is solid. Like, there's nothing I've seen that goes against it. It's been around since literal prehistoric times. And there hasn't been one good argument to refute it that I found. I mean, there's even anti-natalist parents. There's parents out there who have had kids and been like, oh shit, what the fuck did I do? And I'm not throwing shade at him. It's like, yeah, good, you recognized it. I mean, it may have been a bit too late. It's like when I'm a smoker, or I haven't smoked in a little while, I guess, but I was a very heavy chain smoker. It's like being a smoker and realizing, oh fuck, this stuff is addictive and dangerous. Don't do this to anybody else. Don't encourage other people to smoke. That kind of stuff. Even though I've smoked myself, and I've smoked. Man, I used to smoke a lot, like 4 packs a day, but that's a whole other thing. But yeah, like it's just a recognition of what life is. It's a different perception of life. It's not one where people just pretend like suffering and death and pain and like being like losing something in life or any of that is a fluke. It's a guarantee. You understand that these things are guaranteed. Everything I've worked my ass off for in my life, it's gonna disappear at some point. Same with whoever's listening. If there's anyone listening, I don't know if there is, but yeah, it's an understanding that the guarantees of life suck. It's like Amendum, I think, said it's a gamble. It's not a gamble. You know what you're getting. I disagree with him there. It's not a gamble. There's no gambling here. You're guaranteed to lose. It's not a gamble at all, as far as I'm concerned. That's like, it's a nitpick, but I disagree with that. You're not gambling with anybody's life. You're guaranteeing them to die. You're giving them shit that they're going to want to continue to live. They go out all these desires that are either put there through society, advertising, whatever, and the ones that they're built into them, everything in them wants to survive, become more powerful, and survive better. And then they fear death, and the things they fear most are coming straight at them, and they just don't see it. They do everything in their power to avoid those things. Like, yeah, I don't see it as a gamble. Like, you don't win. There's nothing to win. I guess you're gambling in the sense that one is worse than another. Like, dying in your sleep is better than, dying by burning to death in a car wreck or something. Like, yeah, I guess maybe that's where he's coming from. Yeah. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, you're not gambling with anyone's life. You are guaranteeing them death. And that's what I'm seeing. I've yet to see anything that goes against that. But yeah, anyways, just to get back on topic, like, yeah, just know that people out there are going to want you to basically prove yourselves before they'll even give you a chance most of the time. They're going to think you're some depressed loser if you just come out and say, well, I'm an antinatalist, and they look into it and be like, whoa, look at this guy. He must be really morbid and all this sort of stuff. It's like, no, it's just recognizing what reality is, or the reality we perceive. That's a rabbit hole in and of itself, but still, like, the reality that our brains come up with. Oh shit, yeah, suffering death coming at me no matter what I do. So yeah, it it's just dumb to just don't assume that people are going to give a fuck about it, or that you're going to win anybody over. I think it was the friendly antinatalist said, "Push child free, not antinatalism." And I'm kind of inclined to agree, because you're getting the same results. Less people are here. But the problem I have with child free necessarily is the grounding for it isn't as solid. Like, it's not built on a solid foundation. Like, antinatalists know that I'm playing a crap game. This game sucks. Period. End of story. It's not a good place to have kids. Child free people are like, generally from what I've seen, it's like, oh fuck, if I have kids, it's gonna interfere with my vacations, or I can't go binge drinking with my friends on a Friday night. I have to find a babysitter and all this shit, stuff like that. It's not really solid, because one point you may just grow out of wanting to party all the time, or wanting to travel, or whatever, and you'll be like, oh, now it's a good idea to have kids. So, I mean, I can kind of see using child free as a front, but it's a little shaky for me personally. I don't hate it. I'm just not like a big advocate for child free. But anyways, I think I've rambled on long enough. Bottom line is, just watch out for people attacking you personally about this, because they're going to take it as an assault on them. People are just so invested in life. 99% of them are. And if you're lucky to meet another antinatalist or person, or no one, you will, like, yeah, how lucky for you. But anyways, I'm just going to call it a day on this. Have a good one.